The Boston Ledger. A. Frank Murray Investigation. Season 2, Episode 6. Narrated by Frank Murray, Private Investigator. The name's Frank Murray, Private Investigator. 16 years in this business, and I've learned one truth. The past never stays buried. You can solve a case, close a file, walk away thinking it's over. But some cases have roots that run deep. Some cases leave shadows that follow you across the country. This was one of those cases. Sarah and I landed at Logan International at 11 p.m. on a Friday night. Boston in March was colder than Los Angeles, the kind of cold that cuts through your coat and settles in your bones. We grabbed our bags and headed to the rental car, both of us running on coffee and adrenaline. "You okay?" Sarah asked as we pulled out of the airport. "Thinking about Walsh," I said. "He helped us solve Caroline's murder. Now his daughter's calling because he's missing." 3 days, Sarah said. Blood in his car. "That's not good, Frank." "I know." Detective James Walsh had been our ally during the Caroline's ghost case, the season 1 finale where I'd finally solved my sister's 15-year-old murder. Walsh had been the one to connect the dots we'd missed, to push the investigation forward when it could have stalled. He was a good cop, a good man, and now he was missing. We booked a hotel in Cambridge, but our first stop was Boston Police Headquarters. Walsh's daughter, Rebecca, had agreed to meet us there at midnight. She was waiting in the lobby when we arrived, mid-20s, with her father's eyes and the kind of exhaustion that comes from days of fear and no sleep. "Mr. Murray, Detective Murray." She stood as we approached. "Thank you for coming." "Rebecca," I said, shaking her hand, "tell us everything." We found a quiet corner. Rebecca pulled out her phone and showed us a timeline she'd constructed. Dad left for work Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. He texted me at noon, saying he was following up on a lead. That was the last I heard from him. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. Wednesday morning, his partner, Detective Marcus Santos, reported him missing. They found his car that afternoon at the Commercial Street docks. Driver's side door open. Blood on the seat and steering wheel. No sign of Dad. What was he working on? Sarah asked. That's the thing. Santos won't tell me. Says it's an active investigation. But Dad's laptop was recovered from his apartment yesterday, and I have his password. She looked between us. I shouldn't have accessed it, but he's my father. What did you find? I asked. She pulled up photos on her phone. Crime scene images. Dad was investigating a series of murders for victims over 6 months, all shot execution style, all connected to organized crime. But here's what made me call you. She swiped to a document, case notes in Walsh's handwriting. Look at the names he was tracking. Daniel Webb, Marcus Vane, Richard Pemberton. My blood went cold. Those were names from our cases. Daniel Webb had escaped to Mexico at the end of the inheritance trap, our first case this season. Marcus Vane had been a professional fixer who'd appeared in multiple Season 1 cases. Richard Pemberton was the wealthy criminal who'd been convicted during the counterfeit conspiracy. Your father was investigating our old cases, Sarah said slowly. Not just investigating. Look at this. Rebecca swiped to another document. Dad wrote this 3 days ago. Los Angeles connection confirmed. Webb, Vane, and Pemberton all working for same organization. Evidence points to new operation in Boston. Must contact Frank Murray before moving forward. He never contacted us. I said, because he disappeared before he could. Rebecca looked up at us with desperate eyes. Whatever Dad was investigating, it got him killed, or taken, and it involves people you've dealt with before. Sarah and I exchanged looks. We put away a lot of criminals in 16 years. Some stayed in prison. Some got out. And some, like Daniel Webb, had escaped and were still out there. We need to see his case files, I said. Everything he had on these murders. Santos won't share them with civilians, Rebecca said. But he might share them with you. Dad talked about you a lot after the Caroline case. He respected you. Where can we find Santos? He's working late. 3rd floor, Homicide Division. We took the elevator up. Boston Police Headquarters at midnight had the same energy as LAPD headquarters. Cops running on coffee and determination. Cases stacking up faster than they could be solved. We found Detective Marcus Santos at his desk, buried in paperwork. He was maybe 40, built like a linebacker, with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much. He looked up as we approached. "Help you? Detective Santos? I'm Frank Murray. This is my wife, Sarah Murray. We're private investigators from Los Angeles. We're here about James Walsh." Santos' expression hardened. "You're the ones Rebecca called." "Walsh helped us solve a case last year," I said, "when Rebecca told us he was missing." "He's not missing. He's dead." Santos said it flat, no emotion. "We found his body this morning. Haven't released it to the press yet." Rebecca made a small sound behind us. Sarah caught her as her knees buckled. "Where?" I asked quietly. "Warehouse in Charlestown. Execution style. Single shot to the head." Santos rubbed his eyes. "Same MO as the 4 other victims he was investigating. The murders connected to Los Angeles," Sarah said. Santos looked at her sharply. "What do you know about that?" "Names," I said. "Daniel Webb, Marcus Vane, Richard Pemberton. Walsh was tracking them before he died." "Sit down," Santos said. "We need to talk." He pulled out a file as thick as a phone book. Inside were crime scene photos, surveillance images, and a web of connections that made my head spin. 6 months ago, a mid-level drug dealer named Tommy Chin was found dead in an alley in Chinatown. Execution style. We thought it was a gang hit. Santos spread out photos. Then a month later, a loan shark named Patricia Green. Same MO. Then a smuggler. Then a money launderer. All connected to organized crime. All killed the same way. "Professional hits," Sarah said. "That's what we thought." But Walsh noticed something. All 4 victims had recently started working for a new organization in Boston, an operation that had moved in from the West Coast about 8 months ago. "Let me guess," I said. "An operation run by Daniel Webb." Santos nodded. "Webb's the name we kept seeing. But he's not the top. He's working for someone bigger. Someone who sent him to Boston to establish a new territory. Do you know who?" Walsh thought he did. 3 days before he disappeared, he told me he'd identified the person running the operation. Someone from Los Angeles. Someone wealthy and connected enough to have stayed off our radar. Santos pulled out a photograph. He was going to meet his source Tuesday night to confirm the identity. He never came back. The photograph showed a shadowy figure entering a building. The image quality was poor, but there was something familiar about the silhouette. "Where was this taken?" Sarah asked. "Outside a private club in Beacon Hill. The Boston Ledger. Members only, very exclusive. Walsh's source worked there. We need to talk to that source." I said. "Can't. She's dead too. Found in her apartment Wednesday morning. Apparent suicide, but I don't believe it." Santos leaned forward. "Look, I know you two solved Walsh's sister's murder." "My sister?" I corrected quietly. "Caroline was my sister. Walsh helped me find her killer." Santos' expression softened. "Then you know what it's like. Walsh was my partner for 7 years. He was a good cop, a good man. Someone killed him because he got too close to the truth. I need to know what that truth was." "So do we," Sarah said. "What do you need from us?" "Information. You've dealt with Webb, Vane, and Pemberton before. You know how they operate. You might see connections I'm missing." He pushed the file across the desk. "Officially, I can't share case files with civilians. Unofficially, I'm going to the bathroom for 10 minutes. Whatever you do with the files on my desk while I'm gone is your business." He stood and walked away. Rebecca sat down beside us. "Is my father really dead?" "I'm sorry," I said. She was silent for a moment. Then her jaw set with determination. "Then we find who killed him. We make them pay." "We will," Sarah promised. "But, Rebecca, you need to let us handle this. If the people who killed your father think you're investigating, they'll kill me too. I know." She looked at us with red-rimmed eyes. "But I can help. I have access to Dad's personal files. His notes, things he wouldn't have shared with Santos." I thought about telling her no. Thought about sending her home where she'd be safe. But I'd been in her position once. When Caroline was murdered, people had tried to protect me by keeping me out of the investigation. It had nearly destroyed me. Okay, I said, but you do exactly what we say. No going off on your own. No taking risks. Understood. She nodded. We spent the next hour going through Walsh's files. The case he'd been building was meticulous. 5 murders, including his own now, all connected to this new organization. Financial records showing money flowing through shell companies. Surveillance photos of known criminals meeting at the Boston Ledger. And then Sarah found something that made her go still. Frank, look at this. It was a bank statement. Transactions from a Cayman Islands account to various Boston businesses. The account number looked familiar. I've seen this before, Sarah said. Where have I seen this? I pulled out my phone and called Miles. He answered on the first ring. Frank, how's Boston? Cold and full of dead bodies. Miles, I'm sending you a bank account number. Can you trace it? Does a bear code in the woods? Send it over. I sent the photo. 30 seconds later, Miles was typing. Okay, this is a Cayman Island shell account. Very well hidden. Give me a minute to crack through the layers. Got it. The account is owned by a company called Apex Holdings. And Apex Holdings is owned by... He went quiet. Miles! Frank, this account is owned by Richard Pemberton. The room felt like it had tilted. Richard Pemberton, the wealthy criminal we'd helped convict during the counterfeit conspiracy back in Season 1. He'd been running a $20 million counterfeit operation. We thought he was still in prison. Miles, Pemberton was sentenced to 15 years. How is he running operations? He's not in prison anymore. Let me check. Oh no. What? Pemberton was released 6 months ago. His conviction was overturned on a technicality. Some kind of evidence handling issue. The case fell apart, and he walked. Sarah grabbed my arm. 6 months ago. The same time these murders started in Boston. Miles, dig deeper, I said. Everything on Pemberton. Where he is now. What he's doing. Who he's working with. On it. Frank, be careful. If Pemberton's behind this, you're dealing with someone who has serious resources. I hung up. Santos had returned to his desk. Richard Pemberton, I said. That's who's running the operation. Santos' eyes widened. The counterfeiter you helped bust? He's out of prison, and he's in Boston. Son of a bitch. Santos pulled up his computer. If Pemberton's here, he's using an alias. We need to find him before he realizes we're onto him. He already knows, Rebecca said quietly. We all turned to look at her. Dad's last note, the one he never finished. He wrote, Pemberton knows I'm close. Must be careful. That was dated Tuesday morning, hours before he disappeared. Walsh was meeting his source to confirm Pemberton's identity. I said slowly, but what if Pemberton found out about the meeting? What if he got to the source first? Then Walsh walked into a trap. Sarah finished. Santos stood up. The Boston Ledger. That's where Walsh was going Tuesday night. If Pemberton's operation is based there, then that's where we need to go, I said. It's a private club, Santos said. Members only. We can't just walk in. Sarah pulled out her phone. I might know someone who can help. Give me a minute. She stepped away to make a call. Santos looked at me. Your wife always is resourceful. She saved my life 14 times, I said. Resourceful doesn't cover it. Sarah came back 5 minutes later. We have a way in. An old friend from the FBI owes me a favor. He knows someone who's a member. We can get in tomorrow night. Tomorrow night? Santos said. That's 24 hours. Pemberton could be gone by then. Then we make sure he's not, I said. Rebecca, does your father's laptop have anything about the Boston Ledger's membership? She checked. Member list. Dad downloaded it from, I don't know where, but it's here. Send it to Miles, Sarah said. If Pemberton's using an alias, Miles can cross-reference it with known associates. While Rebecca sent the file, Santos and I studied the crime scene photos of the 5 murders. All professional hits. All quick and clean. The work of someone who knew what they were doing. Marcus Vane. I said suddenly, he's a professional fixer. If Pemberton's running the operation, Vane could be doing the hits. Vane's in Boston? I don't know, but these murders have his style written all over them. My phone rang. Miles again. Frank, I've got something. The Boston Ledger's member list cross-referenced with Pemberton's known aliases and associates. There's a member named Marcus Ashford who joined 8 months ago. Heavy investor in Boston real estate, supposedly from old money. Let me guess. Marcus Ashford does exist before 8 months ago. Bingo. It's a cover identity. And get this, Ashford owns a building where Walsh's source lived. The woman who supposedly committed suicide. He killed her to cover his tracks, Sarah said. And then killed Walsh when he got too close. Santos added. We had our target. Now we needed a plan. The next day we prepared. Santos couldn't officially be involved. He was a Boston cop investigating his partner's murder. But unofficially, he provided us with everything we needed. Surveillance equipment. Background on the Boston Ledger. Details on Pemberton's known associates. Rebecca insisted on helping. Sarah put her to work researching the club's layout and security systems. The kid was smart. She had her father's instincts for investigation. The Ledger has multiple floors, Rebecca said, pulling up blueprints. Ground floor is public, restaurant, and bar. Second floor is members only, private dining rooms and gaming tables. Third floor is executive offices. That's where the real business happens. That's where Pemberton will be. I said, how do we get up there? Sarah asked, service elevator. Rebecca said, requires a key card, but it's less monitored than the main elevators. If you can get a card from a staff member. I can handle that, Sarah said. She had a gift for social engineering, getting people to trust her, to give her access they shouldn't. That evening, we dressed for the Boston Ledger. Sarah in a black cocktail dress that made her look like she belonged in a spy movie. Me in a suit that Mrs. Chun had insisted I buy before we left Los Angeles. We looked like money. The Ledger was in Beacon Hill, a converted mansion that screamed old wealth and secret dealings. We arrived at 8 p.m. with our borrowed credentials, courtesy of Sarah's FBI contact. The doorman checked our names against a list. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, welcome to the Ledger. Your membership was sponsored by Mr. Ashford himself. My pulse quickened. Pemberton had sponsored our membership. He knew we were coming. Sarah's hand found mine as we stepped inside. It's a trap, she whispered. Of course it is, I whispered back, but we're walking into it anyway. The ground floor was elegant in a way that Los Angeles never quite managed. Dark with paneling, crystal chandeliers, well-dressed people drinking expensive liquor and pretending they weren't criminals. A hostess approached us. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Mr. Ashford is expecting you upstairs. If you'll follow me. No pretense. No attempt to hide it. We were being summoned. Sarah and I exchanged one quick look, both of us checking that our weapons were concealed and ready. Then we followed the hostess to an elevator. Third floor, executive offices. The elevator doors open onto a hallway lined with portraits of Boston's founding families. At the end of the hall was an office with double doors. The hostess knocked once and stepped aside. Please go in. I opened the doors. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Common. Expensive art on the walls. And behind an antique desk sat Richard Pemberton. He looked older than I remember from our case 2 years ago. Gray at the temples now. More lines around his eyes. But still sharp. Still dangerous. Frank Murray, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And the lovely Sarah. How wonderful to see you both again. Pemberton, I said, you killed James Walsh. Did I? That's quite an accusation. He gestured to chairs across from his desk. Please sit. Let's be civilized about this. We're not here to be civilized, Sarah said. We're here to find evidence that puts you back in prison where you belong. Evidence. Yes, that troublesome thing. Pemberton leaned back in his chair. You know, Frank, I've always admired your tenacity. Most people who helped put me in prison, I'd simply have killed. But you're different. You actually believe in justice. Justice is what you're going to get. Is it? He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. I've been researching you since my release. Quite the career you've built. Solving your sister's murder. Taking down corrupt politicians and pharmaceutical companies. Very impressive. He slid the folder across the desk. But you've made a lot of enemies along the way. I didn't touch the folder. What's your point? My point is that you're not the only one who can investigate, Frank. While you've been busy playing hero, I've been busy building something extraordinary. An organization that spans both coasts. Resources you can't imagine. Connections at every level of power. And you killed 5 people to build it, Sarah said. 5? Try 50. Pemberton smiled. The 4 murders Detective Walsh was investigating were just the beginning. Building an empire requires removing obstacles. Walsh was an obstacle. So were the others. You're confessing, I said slowly. To what? There's no recording device in this room. I sweep it daily. Your phones are being jammed right now. And even if you repeated this conversation in court, it would be your word against mine. A convicted felon from Los Angeles with a history of breaking the law to solve cases. He shook his head. No jury would believe you. He was right, and he knew it. Why bring us here? Sarah asked, why not just kill us like you killed Walsh? Because I want you to understand something. Pemberton stood and walked to a window. I spent 18 months in prison because of you too. 18 months in a cage like an animal. Do you know what that does to a man? Hopefully it makes you reflect on your crimes. I said. He laughed. It made me angry. It made me determined. It made me realize that the mistake I'd made wasn't in committing crimes. It was in getting caught. He turned back to us. I won't make that mistake again. My operation is untouchable now. Federal judges on my payroll. Police chiefs in 3 cities. Politicians, prosecutors, even FBI agents. I'm not just a criminal anymore. Frank, I'm a system. Every system has weaknesses, Sarah said. Does it? Then tell me, how do you fight a system when you're not even sure who's part of it? He pressed a button on his desk. For instance, how do you know Detective Santos isn't working for me? The door opened behind us. Santos walked in, gun drawn. My heart sank. Santos, I said. The detective looked at us with cold eyes. Sorry, Murray. Nothing personal. You son of a bitch, Sarah breathed. You were Walsh's partner. And Walsh was getting too close to the truth, just like you are. Santos moved to stand beside Pemberton. Mr. Pemberton takes care of people who are loyal. Walsh didn't understand that. Neither do you. So you killed your own partner. I said, for money? For $2 million. Santos corrected. Same price all the families got paid in your Amber Protocol case. Pemberton's generous with people who serve him well. Pemberton smiled. You see, Frank, this is what I built. Loyalty through compensation. Fear through demonstration. Walsh had to die publicly, violently, to show others what happens when you investigate me. But you, too, you're going to disappear. Like Daniel Webb disappeared in Mexico? I asked, using him as your front man while you pull the strings. Webb is useful. Expendable, but useful. He handles the Los Angeles operation, while I build the East Coast. Together, we're creating something unprecedented. A criminal empire, Sarah said. An empire, yes. Criminal is such a limiting word. Pemberton checked his watch. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Santos, take them to the warehouse. Make it look like a murder-suicide. Tragic private investigators, and over their heads, couldn't handle the pressure. Santos raised his gun. Move. We stood slowly. Sarah's hand brushed mine. 3 quick squeezes. Our signal. She had a plan. We walked toward the door. Santos behind us with the gun. Pemberton returning to his desk, already dismissing us from his attention. We reached the hallway. The elevator was 20 feet away. Sarah, I said quietly, save number 15? Always. She moved like lightning, spun, and kicked the gun from Santos' hand in one fluid motion. The weapon clattered across the floor. Santos lunged for her, but she was already inside his guard, elbow to his throat, knee to his stomach. I dove for the gun. Behind us, Pemberton was shouting. Doors opening. More footsteps. I grabbed the weapon and turned to see 3 men in suits running down the hall. Security. Frank, Sarah grabbed my arm, and we ran for the elevator. She slammed the button. The doors opened. Miraculously, it was still there. We dove inside. Sarah hit the ground floor button as bullets sparked off the elevator frame. The doors closed. That went well, I said. Your plans always go well. That was your plan. No, my plan was the part where we didn't die. Your plan was walking into the obvious trap. The elevator hit the ground floor, and we burst into the restaurant area. Well-dressed people looked up in shock as we ran through. Sarah's cocktail dress torn, me carrying a gun. Sorry, I called out. Private investigation business. We hit the street and ran. Behind us, Pemberton security was pouring out of the building. Ahead, I could see our rental car. Keys! Sarah shouted. I threw them to her. She caught them, clicked the unlock button, and we dove into the car. She peeled out before I even had my door closed. Gunfire. Our rear window exploded. Get down! Sarah yanked the wheel hard right, cutting through traffic. Behind us, 2 black SUVs were in pursuit. Call Santos. I said, Santos is working for Pemberton. No, call the real Santos. The one we met yesterday. Understanding flashed across her face. You think that wasn't him? Pemberton said every system has weaknesses. He didn't know about Rebecca. She's our weakness in his plan. Sarah grabbed her phone and dialed while navigating Boston traffic at 90 miles per hour. Rebecca, it's Sarah. Where are you? I couldn't hear the response, but Sarah's face relaxed slightly. Stay with him. Don't let him out of your sight. We're being chased by Pemberton's people, and one of them is pretending to be Santos. A pause. Yes, I'm sure. Just hold on. She dropped the phone and yanked the wheel left. We shot down a side street, narrowly missing a delivery truck. The SUVs followed, closing the distance. This is bad, I said. This is Tuesday, Sarah replied. Compared to Helix, this is nothing. You say that now, but... One of the SUVs pulled alongside us. The window rolled down. Marcus Vane smiled at me from the passenger seat and raised a gun. Down! I shouted. Sarah ducked. I ducked. Bullets tore through our car. The windshield spiderwebbed. Sarah couldn't see the road. Frank, I need eyes. I popped up, looked ahead. Hard left in 3, 2, now! She turned. We shot into an alley. Too narrow for the SUVs. They screeched to a stop behind us while we raced through the tight space. We emerged on another street. Sarah accelerated, putting distance between us and our pursuers. Marcus Vane, I said. He's here. He's the one doing the hits. Of course he is. Pemberton collects criminals like baseball cards. My phone rang. Miles. Frank, I've been tracking your phone. Are you being chased through Boston by multiple vehicles? How did you know? Because I can see it on traffic cameras. What did you do? Pissed off a criminal empire. Miles, I need you to do something. Send everything we have on Pemberton, all the files from the original case, the new evidence, everything, to the FBI, not the Boston field office. Washington, D.C. directly to the director. Frank, that's going to put a target on your back. The target's already there. At least this way, Pemberton can't kill us quietly. On it. And Frank? Don't die. Sarah will be very upset. He hung up. Sarah turned to look at me. You're sending the evidence to the FBI? It's the only play we have. Pemberton said he owns judges and prosecutors and FBI agents. Maybe that's true, but he doesn't own everyone. If we make enough noise, if we force this into the light, someone will have to act. She nodded. It's a good plan. For once. We'd lost our pursuers, but we both knew it was temporary. Pemberton had resources. He'd find us. We drove to a safe location, a motel in Cambridge where Rebecca and the real Detective Santos were waiting. Santos looked exactly like the man we'd met at the station, but now I could see the difference in his eyes. This man had grief. The other had been cold. You met him, Santos said when we told him about the fake. You met Pemberton's people. He has someone on the inside. I said, someone who could impersonate you well enough to fool us for a few minutes. That's why Walsh kept the investigation so quiet, Rebecca said. He didn't know who to trust. Santos slammed his fist on the table. I knew there was a leak. I just didn't know it went that high. It goes higher than you think, Sarah said. She told him everything Pemberton had said. The criminal empire, the paid-off officials, the systematic corruption. Santos listened with a face like stone. When she finished, he stood up. I'm going to kill him. No, I said, you're going to help us bury him legally. Walsh didn't die so you could throw your career away on revenge. Walsh died because I wasn't watching his back. Walsh died because he was a good cop investigating a bad system. The best way to honor him is to finish what he started. Santos took a breath. Let it out. Nodded. What's the plan? Over the next 2 hours, we built a case. Santos had Walsh's original files, the real ones, not the sanitized versions that might have been compromised. Rebecca had her father's personal notes. Sarah and I had the recordings from our phones. The jamming in Pemberton's office hadn't been as complete as he thought, and Miles had traced the money. 50 murders over 18 months, all connected to Pemberton's organization, all part of building his empire. This is enough, Santos said, looking at the evidence. This is enough to bring down Pemberton and everyone working with him. If we can get it to someone who'll act on it. I said. My phone rang. Unknown number. Murray. Mr. Murray. This is Deputy Director Catherine Walsh with the FBI. I went still. Catherine Walsh. James Walsh was my brother, she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. I just received a very interesting package from a hacker named Miles Danforth. Files detailing my brother's murder and a conspiracy that reaches into my own agency. Deputy Director, I'm assembling a task force. We're going to tear Richard Pemberton's organization apart brick by brick. But I need your help. I need testimony, evidence, everything you have. We have it, I said. All of it. Good. There's a federal building in Boston, the John F. Kennedy Federal Building. Meet me there in 1 hour. Bring Detective Santos and my niece. We're going to end this tonight. She hung up. Santos looked at me. Catherine Walsh is leading the investigation. You know her. She's one of the most decorated agents in the FBI. If anyone can take down Pemberton, it's her. He grabbed his coat. Let's go. The Kennedy Federal Building was a fortress of glass and concrete in Government Center. We arrived to find it surrounded by federal agents, real ones, not Pemberton's people. Catherine Walsh met us in the lobby. She looked like her brother. Same eyes, same determined jaw. But where James had been warm, Catherine was ice-cold fury. Mr. Murray, Detective Murray. She shook our hands. Thank you for coming. Rebecca. She pulled her niece into a hug that lasted longer than professional courtesy. When she let go, her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. Let's make them pay for what they did to James. We spent the next 4 hours in a conference room going through everything, every murder, every transaction, every piece of evidence linking Pemberton to the organization. Catherine Walsh's task force worked with surgical precision, cross-referencing our evidence with their own investigations. We've been tracking Pemberton since his release, Catherine said. We knew he was building something, but we didn't know how extensive it was. Your evidence fills in the gaps. How many people are compromised? Sarah asked. Too many. We've identified 17 federal employees on Pemberton's payroll, including 3 agents in our Boston field office. That's why I'm running this from Washington. What about the fake Santos? I asked. We're working on that. Whoever he is, he's good. Professional mimicry, inside knowledge of BPD procedures. Probably former law enforcement himself. The real Santos looked sick. Someone inside my department is working for Pemberton. We'll find them, Catherine promised. But first, we're going after the head of the snake. At 2 a.m., the task force moved. 30 federal agents converged on the Boston Ledger. Catherine led the raid herself, with Santos, Sarah, and me riding along as witnesses. We hit the building hard. Agents swarming every floor. Pemberton security tried to resist, but they were outgunned and outmaneuvered. I followed Catherine up to the 3rd floor, to Pemberton's office. The doors were open. The office was empty. He's gone, Catherine said, her voice tight with frustration. He knew we were coming. On the desk was a note. Just 4 words in Pemberton's handwriting. Well played, Mr. Murray. We searched the building top to bottom, found evidence of Pemberton's operation, files, computers, money, but the man himself had vanished. He had an escape plan, Santos said. He always has an escape plan. Catherine's phone rang. She answered, listened, went pale. When? A pause. Understood. Locked down the airport. She hung up and looked at us. Pemberton was spotted at Logan International 20 minutes ago. Private jet. He's trying to flee the country. Can you stop him? I asked. Airport security is moving now, but if he gets in the air, then we need to get there first. We ran. The drive to Logan was a blur of sirens and speed. Catherine had every available agent converging on the airport. We reached the private terminal to find it surrounded by federal vehicles. He's still here, Catherine said, checking her phone. Jet's on the tarmac, but hasn't taken off. He's trapped. We moved into the terminal, past security, past checkpoints, out onto the tarmac, where a sleek private jet sat with its engines running. Agents surrounded it, weapons drawn. Catherine raised a megaphone. Richard Pemberton, you're surrounded. Exit the aircraft with your hands up. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the jet's door opened. Pemberton walked down the stairs, hands raised, wearing the same confident smile. Deputy Director Walsh, he called out. What an unexpected pleasure. You're under arrest for murder, racketeering, corruption of federal officials, and about 40 other charges, Catherine said. Get on the ground. I don't think so. Pemberton gestured to the jet. I have passengers. Diplomatic immunity. You can't touch me. Diplomatic immunity? Santos said. What the hell? A man emerged from the jet. Middle-aged, expensive suit, the kind of face you see in political fundraiser photos. I am Ambassador Chin Wei from the People's Republic of China, the man said with a slight accent. Mr. Pemberton is traveling with my delegation as an economic consultant. He is under diplomatic protection. Catherine's jaw tightened. Diplomatic immunity doesn't cover murder. Prove he committed murder on American soil while under my protection, and we'll discuss it. The ambassador said smoothly. Until then, he's leaving with me. You son of a bitch, I said, Pemberton. You bought diplomatic immunity. I told you, Frank, I don't make the same mistakes twice. He started walking toward the jet. Enjoy your evidence. Enjoy your investigation. Enjoy watching from the sidelines while I rebuild somewhere new. Sir, one of the agents called to Catherine. State Department is on the line. They're confirming the diplomatic status. Catherine looked like she wanted to shoot someone. Stand down. Let them go. No, Santos said. No, he doesn't get to walk away. He killed my partner. Marcus, stand down, Catherine ordered. That's an order. Santos looked between Pemberton and Catherine, rage and grief warring on his face. Finally, he lowered his weapon. Pemberton walked toward the jet. As he passed me, he paused. This was fun, Frank. Let's do it again sometime. You won't get away with this, I said. I already have. He climbed the stairs. The door closed. The jet began to taxi. We stood on the tarmac and watched it take off into the night sky. He's gone, Rebecca said quietly. My father's killer just flew away. Catherine put a hand on her shoulder. He flew away, but he didn't win. We have his organization. We have his people. We have enough evidence to dismantle everything he built. He'll spend the rest of his life running, looking over his shoulder, knowing we're always watching. That's not justice, Santos said. No, Catherine agreed, but it's what we have. We drove back to the federal building in silence. Inside, the task force was already processing arrests. 17 federal employees taken into custody. 23 members of Pemberton's Boston operation. 5 corrupt police officers. The fake Santos was among them. A former NYPD detective named Carl Morrison, who'd been hired by Pemberton 2 years ago to infiltrate police departments and provide inside information. He studied me for months, the real Santos said, staring at Morrison through the interrogation room window. Learned my mannerisms, my voice. He could have destroyed my career. But he didn't. Catherine said. Because Walsh kept his investigation compartmentalized. Because you were his partner and he trusted you. I should have seen it coming. None of us saw it coming. That's why Pemberton was so dangerous. Over the next week, the case expanded. Federal prosecutors filed charges against everyone involved. The news cycle exploded with stories of corruption and criminal conspiracy. Catherine Walsh became the face of the investigation, fielding press conferences and congressional hearings. Sarah and I stayed in Boston through it all, giving depositions and testimony. Rebecca stayed with her aunt, processing grief while watching her father's work finally come to fruition. Dad would be proud, she said one evening over dinner. He'd hate that Pemberton got away, but he'd be proud that we stopped the organization. James was a good detective, I said. He taught me things about investigation that I still use today. Tell me about the Caroline case, Rebecca said. Tell me how Dad helped you. So I did. I told her about my sister's 15-year-old murder, about how I'd spent 16 years searching for answers, about how James Walsh had connected the dots that finally solved the case. Your father saved my life in a way, I said. He gave me closure. He gave me peace. I wish I could have done the same for you. You did, she said. You found the truth. That's what Dad would have wanted. On our last night in Boston, Catherine Walsh took us to dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the harbor. I wanted to thank you, she said, for caring enough to fly across the country for my brother, for risking your lives to find his killer. James helped us when we needed it, Sarah said. We owed him. Still, not many people would have done what you did. She raised her glass. To James, the best detective I knew. We drank to that. What will you do now? I asked. Continue the investigation. We're tracking Pemberton's movements. He flew to Beijing, but we don't think he's staying there. He'll pop up somewhere new, start another operation. And when he does, I'll be waiting. And if he doesn't pop up, then I'll find him anyway. Her eyes were hard. He killed my brother. I don't forget. I don't forgive. And I never stop hunting. I recognize that look. I'd seen it in my own mirror for 16 years. Be careful, I said. Revenge can consume you. This isn't revenge. This is justice. She smiled slightly. There's a difference. Is there? You tell me, Frank. When you finally solved Caroline's murder, did it feel like revenge or justice? I thought about that. About the moment when I'd finally uncovered the truth about my sister's death, about confronting her killer. Justice, I said finally, because it wasn't about making myself feel better. It was about giving Caroline a voice, about making sure people knew what happened to her. Exactly. Catherine stood. That's what I'm doing for James. Not revenge. Justice. We said our goodbyes, promised to stay in touch, agreed to help if the investigation needed us. Then Sarah and I flew home to Los Angeles. Mrs. Chin was waiting when we got to the office. She took one look at us and shook her head. You two look terrible. Come downstairs. I made soup. We followed her down to the restaurant. Detective the cat was perched on the counter, glaring at me with his usual disdain. Nice to see you too, Detective, I said. The cat turned his back on me. He missed you, Sarah said, in his own terrible way. We ate Mrs. Chen's soup and told her about Boston, about Walsh's death and Pemberton's escape, about the corruption we'd exposed and the justice we couldn't quite deliver. You did what you could, Mrs. Chen said. Sometimes that's enough. Is it? You saved lives by stopping his organization. You caught corrupt officials. You honored a good man's memory. She patted my hand. That's not nothing, Frank Murray. Later, upstairs in our apartment, Sarah and I sat on the couch in comfortable silence. We were exhausted. Physically, emotionally, mentally drained. Save number 15, I said finally. You earned it. Multiple times in this case. Sarah agreed. I'm thinking I should start charging you. What would you charge? Good behavior. Not walking into obvious traps. Listening when I say something's dangerous. That's a steep price. Then I guess you better keep owing me. She leaned against me. Frank, Pemberton got away. Webb's still in Mexico. We keep putting away criminals, and they keep getting out or escaping or finding loopholes. I know. Does it ever feel pointless? I thought about that. About 16 years of cases. About victories and losses. About justice delivered and justice denied. No, I said, because even when the villain gets away, we still help people. We gave families answers. We exposed corruption. We made the world a little bit better, even if we couldn't make it perfect. Very philosophical for someone who nearly got shot in Boston. Getting shot makes you philosophical. She laughed. Then she grew serious. Catherine Walsh said Pemberton will surface again, that he'll start another operation somewhere. He will, and when he does, we'll be ready. My phone rang. I almost didn't answer it. Almost decided that we deserved a night off from cases and criminals and mysteries. But I'm a PI. I always answer. Murray and Murray Investigations. Frank Murray speaking. Mr. Murray. The voice was female professional with a slight southern accent. My name is Dr. Amanda Foster. I'm a geneticist working at the CDC in Atlanta. I need your help with a situation that I don't know who else to call. What kind of situation, Dr. Foster? 6 weeks ago, we received samples from a hospital in rural Georgia. A patient had died of an unknown illness. We ran tests. The results were impossible. Impossible how? The patient's DNA had been modified, genetically altered in ways that shouldn't be possible with current technology. When we traced back the medical history, we found something called the Chrysalis protocol. My blood went cold. Dr. Foster, did you say Chrysalis protocol? Yes, it's a classified program we've never heard of. But, Mr. Murray, this patient wasn't part of any trial. This was done without consent. And when we tried to investigate, we were shut down by Homeland Security. They seized our samples and told us to forget we'd ever seen them. Sarah was watching me now, alert. Dr. Foster, how'd you get my name? From a colleague, Dr. Rachel Kim. She said if anyone could help with something like this, it would be you, Rachel Kim, the whistleblower from the hospital murders case, the doctor who'd helped us expose Catherine Porter's mercy killing operation. Dr. Foster, the Amber Protocol case, the one involving Project Chrysalis. We thought we'd shut that down. We exposed Helix Biogenetics. We went public with everything. I know. I read the reports. But Mr. Murray, this patient died 3 weeks ago. Whatever you shut down, someone's doing it again. And this time, they're not using dying children. They're using healthy adults who don't even know they've been modified. I looked at Sarah. She nodded. Dr. Foster, I said, how soon can you get to Los Angeles? If you enjoyed the Boston Ledger, please hit that like button. It helps more people discover Frank Murray's investigations. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss episode 7, where Frank and Sarah face a terrifying new development in the Chrysalis conspiracy. Genetic modifications being performed on unwitting civilians, mysterious deaths in rural Georgia, and a program that should have been shut down but is somehow still operating. And make sure to ring that notification bell so you're alerted the moment the next episode drops. Frank Murray Season 2 continues, and the cases are building towards something massive. Pemberton's in the wind. Daniel Webb's still out there. And now Chrysalis is back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next investigation. Murray and Murray Investigations. Some cases haunt you. Some cases change you. And some cases are never really over.